M8 Black, something that I invested in very recently. But why did I buy this? Well, I bought this because I wanted to improve my cinematography, as in make the videos I film more interesting. I wanted to have different angles when I do things. And I also bought this because I'm going to be building an FPV drone on this channel, and I need something to record my footage with when I do those sick cliff dives. But more on that in my other future videos. But for now, that was the main purpose of the GoPro. But then the other day I was sitting by my desk and I just had it laying there, and I was like thinking, what else can I do, to kind of utilize this device? Because I think you can do a lot of cool things with this, but it's just the idea that you come up with. And obviously being a programmer and wanting to make my life much more easier by automating things, I thought, what about if I try and automate the GoPro? And I thought this was an insane idea. So I started researching on the internet and I started looking for APIs where I can actually interact with this thing, and GoPro has none. They have no APIs to control any GoPro, and they have no documentation about how to even interact with it apart from what's offered on the app. But then I did a little bit more research and I found one specific guy. His name was Konrad Iturbe, and this guy, he loves GoPros and he loves reverse engineering them. And it seems it's not just GoPros but also any kind of commercial camera equipment, which as a coincidence, drones also fall under. So I looked at this guy's GitHub repository and I found that, well, he has an API built for this that allows me to interact with it. And then I looked into what this API offers that he wrote, and it offers so many things that allow you to interact with this camera. You can take a picture, you can record a video, you can change the resolution and the frame rate, you can zoom in with the camera when it's in photo mode, and many other things. And I thought, you know what, let's automate some of these things that will come in handy for me and make life easier when I use this. Now in this video, I want to automate 3 things in particular. 3 things that are extremely useful to me. Now, if you have a look at this, the GoPro has a really hard, opening here, which makes sense because obviously it's supposed to be underwater and it's supposed to be water resistant, but the SD card is right in that little slot. And I have big fingers, so it's very hard for me to always take the SD card, slot it into an adapter, then take another adapter, slot it into here, and then put it in my computer to be able to read and download those images. So there's certain things that we're going to be automating today. And one of those things will be taking all of the footage from this GoPro without taking out the SD card, downloading it onto my computer, and then formatting the GoPro so it's clean and fresh to go. Now the 2 other things that we're going to be doing today is being able to just snap a picture of myself after a timer and then download it to the computer and delete it. And the final thing I want to do is create a time-lapse feature, which will basically take a picture at certain intervals without any specified time until I stop it. And all of those images I want to directly be downloading onto my computer as long as it's in the Wi-Fi range. Now I'm super stoked about this, and without any further ado, let me tell you how to do this, and let's get on to the fun coding in Python. Okay, so we have to cover some steps in order to be able to interact with this GoPro. Step number 1 is installing the package from PyPy that allows you to interact with this GoPro. That was reverse engineered by this guy called Konrad. Second of all, we need to find a way, which I already did find, but I'll explain it to you, how to connect to the Wi-Fi of this camera, because it's not always active on this camera. And finally, it's writing that code and checking that it actually does what we want it to do. Now, first of all, like I said, we need to interact with the camera, so you just need to do pip install GoPro camp. I have already installed it because I had to play around with it to make sure that all of this works, but that's all you have to do, and then you kind of are set up in your own directory to be able to code. So I have already set up a repository to be able to do all the work. I'm going to be using PyCharm, and I've labeled my folder GoPro Automation, and I've already created my Python file to be able to write all my code. I've also created an images folder, because when we download those images, they all download to the root of the folder, and I want to be able to move them somewhere else, which is more logical for me. Now on to the second step. How do we connect to the Wi-Fi of this device? Well, it's not actually as simple as you may think. If you go onto your Wi-Fi settings, you can't really see that device. It's not active. Even if the device is turned on, the Wi-Fi just doesn't appear. It's not always active. Now this camera's Wi-Fi only becomes active and visible whenever you go on your phone, go into the GoPro app and switch off the live preview feature. So I will show you that. Currently we don't have a GoPro 8 Black visible in here. But if I just take my phone and I'll go onto the GoPro app, wait for that to open, then we're going to navigate to the camera. We're going to go onto Control Your GoPro, wait for that to connect. We're going to click Enable Preview. And then here it's going to ask me if I want to connect to the Hero 8 Black Wi-Fi. And at this point I don't. I want to go onto my MacBook and I want to check my Wi-Fi again, and Hero 8 Black becomes available. Now I want to connect to this and cancel out of the application and just close it. And this is how you get over that obstacle of being able to connect to it. Now one thing to mention is when you connect to the GoPro 8 Black for the first time, what you have to do is you have to go into your preferences, go into your connections, click on camera info, and then here you're going to have your camera name and your password to be able to connect to that camera. Now because I have already done this, it has remembered the password, so I didn't have to do that step, but I'm just making sure I give you all the information if you guys want to try this for yourself. Now on to step 3, which is the programming. And I think firstly we should try and connect the GoPro, so set up our GoPro object within a Python code, and then see what we currently have on the SD card, because I want to kind of start fresh. And I purposely didn't delete all my other files that I filmed before when I was testing it, to show you that you can look into those files and be able to see what you have there. But for this purpose, I just want to show you that, well, we have some files and I'm going to delete them all, and then we'll view the files again and they're not going to be there. So first we need to import the package. So from GoPro Cam, import GoPro camera and constants. Constants are things like resolution, frame rate, zoom, etc. So now that we imported our package, we want to create a GoPro object. So I'm going to call it go_pro. It's going to be my object. And I'm going to say GoPro camera.GoPro. No semicolons, this is Python. I'm so used to JavaScript. Okay, so we have our GoPro object. Now the first thing I want to do is see what is currently on this SD card. So what we can say is we can do GoPro.list media. And we can set that to true. And basically this will show everything on the camera. So if I direct to my terminal, I can just run Python GoPro8.py. And here we go. These are all the files that I have on my camera. So now I want to delete all these files. So what we can do is, instead of saying GoPro list media, we can say GoPro delete, and I can say delete everything. And then if we go here and then I say, okay, run the file again, successfully connected. So we didn't specify a print message, but we can just say again that we want to list the media, say that to true, and when we run it again, there should be absolutely nothing. And nothing is there. So the whole SD card that I had on this camera got wiped. And it's as easy as that. There are functions to format it on the camera, but now I don't even have to access the camera. It can just be lying there and I can autonomously do anything I want. So the next thing I want to do is I want to start off by creating the feature where I take a picture after a specific timeout. It appears in my repository and then I instantly delete it. And then I check my media. So what we can do is, let's create a function for that. We can say define take photo, transfer, delete. Okay, the first thing that we need to do is we need to take the picture. So we can call our Python object dot take photo, and I can set a timer here and give it some values. So after a timer of 5 seconds, I want the GoPro to take a picture of me and then send it over to my computer. So now we want to send something over. So we can say go_pro dot download last media, and then here I can specify a name for my last media. Currently I just want to call it whatever it is in the camera, or actually for the purpose of this tutorial we can say custom file name, and I'm going to call it selfie.jpg. And remember, you have to say JPEG, otherwise when it comes and arrives into your repository root in your PyCharm, or any other IDE that you might be using, it will just be a file rather than an actual image. Okay, so now that I downloaded my last media, I want to delete it. So in the same way that we did previously, we say GoPro delete, and instead of specifying all, we can just specify the last thing. We can call our take photo transfer delete, no semicolons, Filip, no semicolons. And then we can say, well, GoPro, list the media for me and tell me that there actually isn't anything on the device, which means I taken my picture, wiped it, and I'm all good. So let's run it and let's test it. So I run my device, switch is on. Awkward pose for the picture, did that? Ah, it's a type error. What? So I was just posing for the picture. Okay, type error not supported between instances string and integer in take photo. Oh, is it not a string? It might not be a string actually. So let's just clear everything and let's go again. Picture, 5 seconds. Picture taken. There we go, file name, size, perfect. And now if we go back to our files, we have a selfie. And look at that, that is me. Fantastic. Wow, I quite like the wide angle of it, it seems cool. So that is me, that is the picture of me transferred. Now we wanted to check if there's any media. Now did that print? It printed the file name here. I'm just wondering if there is no media, does it even print anything? So let's just go back and double check that. So let's go into our GoPro and let's not call this function and let's just list our media. And there's nothing. Okay, so it just prints nothing. So it did what it was supposed to do. I should really write some print statements to actually tell me that something is happening. Anyway, you guys get the point. We have automated this to take a picture and delete it, and it instantly comes to my computer, which is absolutely awesome. I really like that. So now I can just take selfies of myself remotely from my computer. So I can just place the camera in the corner, take a picture, and I'll just have it. Okay, second thing that I want to do. Let's work on a time lapse. Let's take a picture indefinitely for as long as I want until I actually stop it. Now I could provide some certain time, but I'm never really sure how long I want to do a time lapse for. So I always kind of do a time lapse for as long as, for example, a sunset is going down and then I stop it. And I don't want to stop a time lapse too early or too late, depending on, what the situation is. Let's just say define time lapse. So how does a time lapse work? Well, basically we need to set a condition which will be true, and we can say, well, while it's true, so while it's happening, while it's alive, take a picture every 10 seconds. Okay, and I'm gonna pass in some interval, and that interval will be how long I want to wait in between each picture. So in this case, I'm going to say GoPro, download last media, and then that last media will be GoPro.take photo, and then the timer here will be equal to the interval. And now that will only work once, so we have to put it in some kind of condition which will work indefinitely. So we can just say while this condition is true, run that. And it's as simple as that, ladies and gentlemen. And now I think it's time to test it out. I will make an interval of 1 second and then I will download it, but we still haven't deleted stuff because I just want to make sure that I get all the pictures. So we'll view media afterwards. GoPro.list media to true. And then after we do that, we just want to run time lapse with an interval of, let's do every 1 second because I'm bougie like that. Okay, another space, so PyCharm is happy. Let's do a time lapse of my face. And let's go. Okay, let's stop it. And I have interrupted it, of course. Oh, it was actually printing our images as it went along. Apart from all these stupid pictures of me, well, you better enjoy those. Okay, so the last part of the automation that I want to do is, if I have all my media, videos, photos, everything here, I basically want to be able to download everything onto my computer and move it into a specific folder. So I already have everything organized the way I want it. What are we going to call this function? Well, I'm going to call this function media download and transfer and delete. Just for the purpose of information, let's just call it that so it makes sense and is verbal to you guys what the function does. Before I even get into this, I feel like we should record some videos. So let's just quickly comment this out. And what I can say is, currently, let me just look at my GoPro, change it to video mode, which I don't actually have to do, it automatically changes when I call it, but currently I'm running at 4K 30 frames per second. Well, I want to change it to 60 frames per second. So all we have to do is GoPro.video settings, and I can just say that I want my FPS to be 60 frames per second. Oh, it's missing one positional argument. Okay, resolution. Well, I just want to keep it 4K as I did. I'll run this, and it's changed my frame rate to 60 frames per second, which is super cool. Now that I did that, I want to record some videos. So GoPro, shoot video, and is a duration, and I want the duration to be for, well, shoot the video for 5 seconds. This is not a string, but it has to be an integer. Now let's do that again. I'm going to show you guys a close-up here, and I'm going to run the command, and it's recording me for 5 seconds. And now it should stop. So now I have a video on my SD card, just for the purposes of downloading it later on. So back to the function, define media, download and transfer and delete. So as we did beforehand, GoPro.download, download all the media onto my computer. Now the next thing I want to do after I download is I want to move the media somewhere else. In order to move the media, we have to access our operating system and be able to manipulate it here. I like to work with a library called Shuttle, which basically allows you to move certain files into specific folders. But now, how does this download all work within this API? Now, when I did some deeper research, what happens is when you set the download all to a variable, what it will produce is a list of all the file names that you have downloaded, which is perfect and which is what we want. So what we can say is we can say that media is equal to GoPro download all. Now it's going to, first of all, download everything. And that media variable is going to store a list of all these file names that we have downloaded. Now, before we go any further, let's just delete all of these, like so. And we can say that, well, I have this list. Let me take every single one of those pictures and just move it somewhere else. In this case, I want to move it to my images folder. So what we can say that for I in media, that's our iteration, shuttle dot move. Now what we want to specify in this function is the location from and to where we want to move the file. We know the file name, so we can say that the current directory dot I, which is the file name, and we're going to have to format it to pass in that value. And now we want to specify the location to where we want to move it to. So it's going to be the current directory slash the images folder slash the file name, which is going to be something that we pass in dot format, and it's going to be I. At the end, we just want to say, well, GoPro, delete everything from our SD card. Let's just call the function media download, transfer and delete. Let's satisfy PyCharm to not complain, and let's just run that. Okay, so it's downloading our media. It's very slow, so if you have very fast internet, this will be even better for you. What's the problem? GoPro 72 JPEG, no file or directory found, because it prints the gh10074.mp4. But here we have everything that starts with 100 GoPro dash the file name, which means what we need to do is we need to say 100 GoPro dash and 100 GoPro dash go. Okay, I think that should work. Let's just clear it and wait for them to download again. And it did it. Let's have a look if it's in our images folder. Yes, it is. Look, it's all in our images folder. It has been moved. Now, the last final result. Has it been wiped from our GoPro? Well, let's just check that. GoPro list media. Let's just pass in true. Yes, we want to see it. And nothing. And it worked, guys. Look at that. 3 amazing functions that really automate this and speed the process up. You don't have to go on your phone to download and send media. You can just directly do it with this without taking out your GoPro, without going into the settings and changing stuff. You can do everything remotely with this cool API and with these simple functions that just automate the whole process. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you smash the thumbs up button and make sure you subscribe to my channel. As always, thank you very much for watching and tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.